Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mings, and it's time to continue my Advanced Wars tournament arc. I've won the two first matches of the Advanced Wars Glenstorm Cup, and now I'm fighting my way through round 3. And my opponent this time, he's not quite as highly rated as my round 2 opponent, Izanagi was, but he's still pretty damn strong. The 42nd Gecko. I don't know what happened to the 41 other Geckos, but he's number 42, and he is a 1200 MMR rated opponent, so not an opponent to be taken lightly. So I trained a lot for this matchup. And this was a very weird matchup because the tier for this particular round was tier 3. So there were a lot of picks to choose from here. Mainly my bet was either on Javier or on Rachel. But right before the match, the 42nd Gecko messages me and he asks, "Hey, I really don't like any of these COs. You want to just play a JESS mirror?" And I'm like, hell yeah I do. Sounds like fun. So yeah, that's what we ended up doing, a JESS mirror match. Now, of course, I was a little bit worried that he would just play me and, you know, select a higher tier opponent anyway. I don't think that's bannable. I don't think that's, like, against the rules. Like, I don't think you're obligated to actually honor your picks if you make a verbal agreement. It might get your image a little bit tarnished, though, if you're known to be a dishonest player. But the 42nd Gecko was true to his word. He picked JESS, and I picked JESS. So we have ourselves a JESS mirror match. And I like JESS a lot in high funds because her infantry firepower penalty doesn't really matter as much in high funds because high funds really is all about vehicles. Infantry engagements are kind of rare here. I'm not saying they don't happen, but they're just not as common because it's all about vehicles. And JESS has a lot of firepower, so those vehicles become very scary. I like to think she's essentially max in tier 4. I mean, she almost feels like that sometimes. So, but the map that we're fighting on right now is another very interesting one. It's called Chaos Theory. This was in the High Funds League for the longest amount of time. I think it might still be, because I played a lot of matches on this. I still trained a lot for it, because it's not a map that I've historically done very well on. Really weird map. It's very cramped, very, very, like, tight reinforcements paths. Like this base right here, you have to send your tanks all the way around here. It takes forever for them to get to the front line, so you need to plan out your units well in advance. It's a map that really forces you to think several turns ahead, because you can't just reinforce immediately into the center. You got to really think, how am I going to move my units? When are they going to arrive? And you got 2 airports on the map, which means that you really need to plan out your anti-air. And of course, both of us are playing JESS, which means that our air units are not going to be that strong, but they're still something you got to watch out for. You also have these 2 carriers in the center here. They can be killed pretty early on by an artillery, but they still lock down a fair amount of the map. And one thing you really have to keep in mind is that the carriers are worth 30k. So you destroy your opponent's carrier, you're essentially giving them a cop, or a power, as some people call it. So this is one of the reasons why I thought Rachel might be very good, because she almost has her missiles immediately. So that's why I strongly contemplated Rachel for this map. But of course, we ended up doing JESS, so it's fine. But yeah, like whether or not you destroy the carrier or not, you'll actually see this map. These carriers actually ended up playing a very interesting role in the matchup. So something you want to keep in mind. So yeah, I think we're just going to jump into it, ladies and gentlemen. Gecko is in the red trunks over on the right-hand side here. I'm in the green trunks on the left side. And of course, we start off by just capturing our bases, as is the usual. You can see both players are actually pressing weight on their carriers, which is, you know, that's just to ensure that we move every single unit. Now, I took my time with this matchup. I tried to spend a full day per move, so that I wouldn't just rush like I normally tend to do. So I set aside like 1 hour each evening to spend a lot of time in Move Planner, and I told myself that I would only make 1 move each day. And sometimes I actually waited several days to make a move if it was a really crucial one. By contrast, my opponent actually played pretty quickly. I think he did not take as much time as I did. So Gecko here opens up APC. And when I saw this, I was like, cool, I'll do the same. Because I like APC openers. So I was like, yeah, you want to go APC? I go APC. JESS doesn't really rely that much on APC since she refuels, but it does allow her to get some infantry over here, which can be nice. And I open up an artillery because I want to start blasting away this carrier to get it out of the way. So both of us just capturing our neutral cities right here. Gecko moving his APC down to transport. He's probably going to get his infantry down to the airport, I imagine. I move my artillery in range of the carrier immediately. And I think we play it pretty similarly, except I'm opening artillery, he's opening tank. So he's not actually going artillery, he has no interest in taking down my carrier. And this will actually become pretty important later on, you'll see why. So Gecko here, getting his APC down. Yeah, he's going for the airport really early on. He wants to try and get some early bombers out to apply pressure. So again, just using my APC to bring infantry into the center here, and I'm attacking. And look at how much that builds up his power bar. 15k of power charge immediately. So for the Gecko decides that he will not take down my carrier. I guess he thinks that the power charge is worth more. And it's not like the carrier really locks down that much. It does prevent reinforcement through here, but it's like you can still build air units. You just can't move them inside this red range right here. But I thought it a little bit strange that he just left my carrier alive, because this actually does allow me to do some interesting things later on, which you will see. So he builds a second APC and a recon, and I'm like, okay, very interesting opener right here. Double APC JESS. I was contemplating building an APC of my own, but at this point, I was like, you know what? I'm done with handshaking, you know? I'm done with handshaking. Like, he wants to open APC, I can follow that, but I'm not going to do double APC opener. Like, no. I'm playing to win this tournament, and I think 2 APCs are far too much. Like, 1 is more than you'll need, in my opinion. Although APCs can do some interesting things on this map, which I will point out later. So, yeah. We have now both captured our airports, so we're working on the second airport. We captured one, working on the other. Now, this APC does allow him to do some interesting things, like get these properties earlier, but it's also like he'll also be a full vehicle down from me, which can be kind of detrimental. But Gecko's game plan going into this, I think he was planning on doing a lot of air units, maybe? Here he finally builds his artillery, and I'm like, okay, so he is going to destroy my carrier, okay. So I'm like, okay, that's fine with me. I already have my artillery. Like, my artillery has already killed his carrier, and I'm moving it into position. And this artillery can be very powerful. Like, it can allow you to do a lot of things. I'm going to show you some of the walls that I built later on with this artillery in mind. So here, I actually decided to go in with tanks and attack here. And this may look a little bit weird, because he will get to strike me from a city. But if you look here, I have a third tank coming. If he attacks me, I'll be able to strike him back and kill the tank. And I'll be able to move the artillery in and lock down the city as well. So this is essentially my strong side versus his weak side. That's why I feel comfortable attacking here. Yes, I'm giving him a first strike, but I'm also denying him a property, which is actually kind of a big deal in high funds. That's 2,000 income. That does earn itself in pretty quickly. And I kill an infantry. So... and I follow it up with a Neo tank immediately on my strong side. So I'm going to be applying a lot of pressure on my strong side here. I am basically inviting him in to start a tank chain attack, because I know I'll win it. I'll win it eventually. So let's see what Gecko decides to do here. He now puts his artillery in range of my carrier. So I'm like, okay, he's actually gonna start shooting on it now. And he builds a bomber. And bomber is a reasonable response to a Neo tank, but I'm not a big fan of it in this situation. I think he would have been better served maybe building a Neo tank. So he wants to obviously threaten my Neo, but I can just build a single anti-air and place it in range of the Neo tank, and if he strikes the Neo tank, then I kill his bomber. It's not a good trade for him. And I have 2 bases on this side, he only has 1, so I can easily follow suit and respond with an anti-air. So I wasn't a big fan of this bomber, personally, but he actually accepts my invitation for the tank chain, so he actually goes in here. He also brings in his recon. And I decide to start capping my comm tower to get that coveted 20%, and then I go in with a tank, attack, and then I move in with the infantry, and I create a little cute little wall, and I don't think there's any way he can break through this. So again, you see this artillery here is going to be very, very powerful. So as long as I can keep it alive, it's going to serve me incredibly well. I move in with a Neo tank, follow it up with an anti-air, 2 anti-air in fact, because I'm sensing, okay, 1 anti-air isn't always enough to deal with a bomber. You kind of want 2, and the anti-airs are nice anyway, because they can one-shot infantry, so they're decent for busting through walls. So I build another artillery on my weak side because at this point I'm pretty much all in on the south side. So I'm deciding, okay, if I can place a single artillery like here, I can at least like try and deny him the airport. Because I realize this is going to be an airport rush. Like, I'm going to go for his airport, he's going to go for my airport. So maybe an artillery will serve me somewhat well here, we'll see. But he's using his APC to boost, which is nice. Well played. And now he's actually locking down my airport. And he places his tank on the city right here. So here he does something kind of interesting. He moves in with his bomber, but you may notice something. I still have my carrier, which means there's a giant zone in which he cannot enter. And he's also feeling kind of scared right now, so he's actually not shooting on my carrier, but moving his artillery down. I think this is a huge mistake, because leaving this carrier alive means that there's now a giant no-fly zone that I can take advantage of. And I will take advantage of it. So day 10 rolls in, I finish capping my comm tower, and I decide to fly in, because look at this. The carrier is covering the tank. And here, again, I'm moving my Neo-Tank onto this empty missile silo here. If the bomber strikes the Neo-Tank, it's going to be about 5 HP worth of damage, since he's JESS. And then the Antire will simply destroy the bombers. So, yeah, not really a big deal for me at all, honestly. And here, yeah, I utilize the no-fly zone to my advantage, placing tanks like this. There's no way he can burst through this. He can attack with the tank, but it's not a kill. He'll bring it down to 1 HP. And then I'll be able to strike him back. And as long as this carrier is here, this bomber essentially cannot do anything. I mean, he can attack from here, I guess, but keep in mind, this anti-air, I'm very close to getting my power. It'll be able to reach him. So, yeah, build a battlecopter, and I just decide also here, I'm just attacking him because, yeah, he's on a city, but I'm JESS and I have 200% extra firepower, and he doesn't have another tank too. So moving that in, I think it was a little bit reckless of him. So I'm able to deal a significant blow to his tank, which I'm pretty happy about. And look at my positioning right here. There's not really any way for him to attack this. There's not really any way for him to attack it at all. Like, the carrier, him not killing my carrier is actually hurting him quite badly right now, because it means the bomber just can't do anything. Now, he is attacking me back using his anti-air, which is nice. I wish I had a... Honestly, I wish this was a tank instead of an artillery, because I would have been able to strike back pretty hard here. But oh well. He builds a battlecopter. And at this point, I think he realizes that, yeah, he moves his bomber back. He knows that I'm going to strike him pretty hard if he's not careful. Using the APC to wall, that is actually pretty nice. And more battlecopters. He's building a lot of battlecopters, though. I have 3 anti-air on this side, and they're not really going to be able to do a whole lot. But here, I decide to create a little bit of another wall. So this is not a perfect wall. He can break this if he wants to. But look at this, I have my APC here, so he can't kill that. This mountain prevents him from killing this infantry. So this is actually, this artillery locks down this city, and it locks down this city. So it prevents him from taking them. And now I have a tank here, which is threatening his anti-air. So you can see artillery can be pretty strong in high funds when utilized correctly. You just gotta wall properly. It takes a long time to build walls. You really gotta spend a lot of time in Move Planner to account for all the variables, especially when you're up against like movement seals like JESS. You really have to make sure your walls are proper. But here I realized that, okay, I shouldn't overextend too much, so I do move my units back here on the south side. But again, keeping this artillery alive, moving the Neo-Tank in such a position that I can strike back against any tanks that comes my way. And I move in with my units and create like a big wall. Again, it's not a perfect wall, I think. If he pops his power, he can burst through and attack my anti-air, but what is that truly going to do? I build another Neo-Tank. I actually decided to build a T-Copter. And the reason why I build a T-Copter in this situation is I had the money for it. I had a build order that had exactly... oops, sorry. Did I skip the whole turn? Oh, there we go, sorry. I built a T-Copter because I had exactly 5k left after building a Neo-Tank, an anti-air, and an infantry, so I was like, why not? This T-Copter might help me get to the airport a little bit quicker, so I'm like, why not? So day 12 rolls in, Gecko finally takes a shot at my carrier, bringing it down to 4 HP, which is, you know, it can still do some damage, though. I still wouldn't move my bomber in its range, but he does that. And now he starts to really lay on the pressure here. He moves his anti-air all the way in the back to zone out my tank, but I do kind of disagree with this a little bit because this will allow me to box it in later. He also moves his bomber over here, but I think he takes a shot at the pipe. It doesn't register in the replay viewer, but he does take a shot at it. So he's moving in, healing up his tank. So I know he's going to be pushing hard on the north side. So it's going to be a north versus south rush. He builds a bomber, another bomber. So he's going hard on the air units despite being JESS. And here I'm feeling confident enough to move forward with a bunch of my units. I'm not capping anything this turn, but I'm just slowly edging my units forward, waiting for him to do something stupid. And here I decide to build a wall with my APC and my infantry, and I'm boxing in the anti-air. And this is a little bit cocky. I should have known he would have. Like, he will crush this artillery. I just really didn't want to let him get the city. So I'm like, okay, if you want to attack me, I will counterattack you. So day 13 rolls in, and Gecko does decide to go for it. He attacks and pops his overdrive. Brrrra. And in comes the 5 HP tank. My artillery takes a lot of damage. And he goes pretty hard on me, as you can see right here. Comes in with a lot of units. But it's not a really strong attack, though, if you really look at it. Like, he's not really able to do that much. He doesn't have that many vehicles in the north. He has mostly air units, which doesn't really benefit from his overdrive. This was an annoying move, though. Placing his APC air was a pretty nice move. But he's not going to attack in the south, so this is mostly a defensive overdrive. So honestly, I think he could have gotten away with just popping turbocharge here, because I don't really think he really needed the extra movement or firepower. He just wanted the utility. So it's a very weak overdrive. If you really look at the damage he dealt, it's not very strong at all. And here comes my counterattack. Now, unlike him, I plan to do a lot with my overdrive. I take out his anti-air, and I build myself a fighter, because there's 2 bombers in the area, so I pretty much must do this. I do move my Neo-Tank in range of his bomber, but I have a anti-air backing it up, so if he attacks here, he's gonna lose it. And in comes the attack. I start capping his comm tower. I take out his battlecopter. And I even deal some damage to his tanks, which is kind of nice, which allows my anti-air to kind of do this uncontested. And again, the T-copter is actually helping me out pretty well now. And look at how I placed my Neo-Tank, just out of range of his Neo-Tank. He's just used his power, so I don't have to account for the extra movement. And I'm capping and attacking at the same time. You always want to combine your caps with attacks, because you want to make sure that when you start capping, your opponent has to choose between either interrupting the caps or striking back. So don't do like I used to do 2 years ago. Don't cap and then attack, or cap and then or attack and then cap. Cap and attack at the same time, always. You want to spread your opponents thin. So day 14 rolls in right here, and I'm pretty proud of this attack right here. Let's see how his counterattack is shaping up. So he comes in with the Neo-Tank, kills my anti-air. And he does, if I remember correctly, he's able to interrupt quite a lot of caps this turn, but he still has to use his tanks. And for some reason, he actually attacks with his battlecopter instead of interrupting the comm tower, which I thought was a very peculiar move. The comm tower matters quite a bit in these engagements, because it's not just 10% firepower for me. It's also 10% less firepower for him, which means my units are tougher to kill. So I didn't agree with him just giving me the comm tower, but I guess he was kind of desperate at this point. But he is really on the ropes right now. Day 14 rolls in, and I see a giant hole in his defenses. I cap the comm tower, and boom, he left his bomber foolishly in my range, so I guess he just wasn't paying attention at this point. And what follows is a very devastating attack. And here, I'm actually sacking units to get a turbocharge. And this turbocharge allows me to do a lot of cool things. Like this, for example. Boom, extra battlecopter kill. Gives me a strike on the tank. Takes down this artillery to 3 HP. And now, since he doesn't have any anti-air, this battlecopter is blocking the only bridge over here. So, yeah, And look at the artillery. Again, this artillery has been kept alive the whole match, and it has been so useful. I don't think it's fired a lot, but it has just done a great job zoning. And artillery can go the whole match without attacking, and it can still be insanely viable. So I have done quite a lot of damage to him, though, so he does get another overdrive. And this is, if he can't do a lot of damage with this overdrive, then it's definitely GG. He has 2 Neotanks, though. So, let's see what he's able to do here. He does go with his Neotank, strikes me, but it's not enough to one-shot, especially not without the comm tower. And I mean, it's not a bad overdrive. It's certainly a lot better than his first overdrive. But it's just not doing the damage that he needs it to do. He does attack my Neotank, and then he resigns. Because, yeah, I mean, just look at the battlefield at this point. I'm going to completely dominate his southern side. I'm going to take his airport. And because his anti-air is still 1 turn away from reaching, I can deny this airport for 2 extra turns. Which means that my initiative will be so overwhelming compared to his. I will take his base, and then I will dominate the entire southern side, and then he will lose. Keep in mind, in a tournament, there's a 35-day limit too, so, you know, and anyone who has a big capture advantage is going to statistically win after day 20. Like, that's just how it's going to be. So yeah, looks like I won the 3rd match of the Glenstorm Cup. Now I will go on to face the one and only Jetokwan in round 4, and I am very, very excited for that. Let's see how far I can make it. Hope you guys are cheering me on. Give this video a like and a comment if you enjoyed it. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.